Deadliest Warrior season finale continues live. Hi there, I'm Kieran Elliott, and you are watching a very special live presentation of the Deadliest Warrior season finale. In case you're just tuning in, the Gurkhas have just defeated the French Foreign Legion, and your votes were correct. You got it right. Very well done. Well, most of you did. Coming up, we'll see if you can predict the most controversial episode of the season, Vampires versus Zombies. And on that note, we are joined by renowned graphic novelist Steve Niles. Steve, welcome to the show.
All right, thanks for having me. Good to see everybody again.
Now, before we go any further, Mac, what do you think was it that turned the tide for the Gurkhas in this matchup?
Listen, when you're looking at Gurkha versus French Foreign Legion, these are two great warriors, fierce, highly skilled. It's those slight advantages, those little edges in the weapons that started falling the Gurkhas' way. And when you're starting to talk about the physiology even with the Gurkhas, that fell their way as well. So it's just those slight advantages that turned the tide in that battle.
And that kukri, an amazing weapon as well. You had to see that. Moving on to you, Steve. What was your initial reaction when the producers asked you to do Vampires versus Zombies?
You know, it was positive right away because I've been having this argument since I was 5 years old anyway. I mean, I was a fan of comics and horror. You know, these are the arguments we have. Who's stronger, Hulk or Thor? Who's gonna, who's gonna beat zombies versus vampires? So this was a great format to actually maybe settle the argument.
Absolutely. It was great for us as well. It was great to see so many people involved and enjoying it, so thank you very much for being involved. And once again, Mag, Jeff and Armand will be tweeting throughout the night, so be sure to follow them. And don't forget to tweet your questions. Finally, stay tuned for the live aftermath coming up at 11 p.m. We have another very, very special guest, and we'll visit Dr. Dorian's world in the ER, where every day is a matter of life and death. All right, the hour upon us. Here is Deadliest Warrior, Vampires versus Zombies.
It started with two warriors resurrected from history. The tools of war were tested to determine who would win a battle to the death. Now, in an unprecedented television event, we're applying the groundbreaking scientific methods developed over 3 seasons to create a battle between two of the world's most feared legendary creatures. Vampires.
We're talking about a super killing machine, a thinking apex predator. Blood to a vampire is like super fuel, and that's what gives that vampire that superpower.
Versus zombies.
Essentially, a zombie acts exactly like a virus, which has no other purpose than the complete consumption and destruction of the entire human race.
A zombie feels no fear, it never gets discouraged, it will never stop.
These menacing monsters have each made a huge killing, racking up billions of dollars at the box office, along with novels, comic books, and video games. The government Center for Disease Control has even published an emergency plan for a zombie apocalypse. Now, we'll combine our scientific analysis with vital information from an advisory panel of horror legends, including George Romero, to take on the ultimate battle of the undead.
So what excites me about being a scientist and an engineer is that I'm constantly working in the unknown. Working on this episode brings that excitement to a whole new level. I can apply my science to science fiction.
I joined SEAL Team to prove myself as a man, but underneath all of that is this geek and nerd who actually loves comic books, loves sci-fi and horror. So for me personally, I can't wait to see how this matchup goes.
When I first heard about the matchup, I honestly thought, I'm going to lose all credibility here. I'm a doctor. But they are grounded in science and biology. With regards to the animal kingdom, the vampire is the apex predator, while the zombie is fueled by a virus. The organism that's killed more people than all of the wars combined, all of the natural disasters combined. I'm really excited. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Vampires versus zombies. Who is deadliest? To find out, ancient legends and modern science collide as former Navy SEAL Richard Mac Makowitz dives deep into the fighting tactics of these mythical creatures. Biomedical engineer Jeff Desmoulins applies 21st century technology to unlock new data from beyond the ages. And ER physician Armand Dorian dissects the trauma and reveals the physical and psychological traits of these infamous creatures. This groundbreaking data will be paired with revealing insights from an advisory panel of the biggest names in horror and entered into an all-new digital combat engine. Two bloodthirsty creatures will battle it out in a head-to-head death match, but only one will be crowned Deadliest Warrior. Welcome to the Fight Club, where, for this special edition of Deadliest Warrior, our experts will reveal the facts behind the fiction and help decide which legendary creature is deadliest. Vampires, blood-draining demons who kill to live and live to kill, or zombies, plague-infected ghouls with an insatiable hunger for human flesh.
Two of the most famous mythical creatures in a head-to-head battle to the death. Zombies versus vampires. This has never been done on television before, and I can't tell you how excited I am to be involved in this first. Now, they're mythical creatures. You might not think there's a lot of rules.
But there are a ton of rules, and let me first start this off by saying I'm a practicing emergency physician, okay? But I'm gonna take my medical license, put it aside, because this is really interesting.
Remember, this is Deadliest Warrior. We got to look at strategy and tactics. We've got to look at all of those X factors we normally plug in to every single matchup.
Completely agreed, Mac. This episode obviously is going to present a few challenges when we're looking at test design. These warriors don't carry any weapons. Their bodies are the weapons. Also, typically we do man versus man, but in this particular matchup, it really comes down to the strength and speed of the vampire versus the sheer numbers of the zombies. So we need to pick a ratio that we can use in our sim to make this an even fight. So what we did was create an advisory panel. Directors, comic book writers, the people that created the legends behind zombies and vampires. So what we asked them to do was create a list of characteristics, capabilities, vulnerabilities, and I can't wait to put that list to the test.
Representing our advisory panel for the vampires, renowned graphic novelist Steve Niles, creator of 30 Days of Night, which became a major motion picture and helped redefine the vampire genre.
Because I pretty much dedicated my life to writing, horror and monsters. The romantic vampire started in Bram Stoker's version of the book, and then Bela Lugosi came along, turning the vampire into this sort of suave seducer. That's where vampires got stuck. When it came time for me to do 30 Days a Night, I just wanted to strip all that away. I looked at all the examples of vampires that I really enjoyed, like some of the Blade movies, where they were just treated as bad guys. What if they don't want to seduce you? What if we are just their food? And just that little twist makes them incredibly frightening.
Providing historical and scientific analysis of vampires, advisory panel member Scott Bowen, author of the cult classic, The Vampire Survival Guide.
Vampires see us just strictly as energy. We're a resource. A vampire has a circulatory system that's kind of like a jet engine. When it drinks that blood, that engine goes on afterburner. A vampire is upwards of 6 times stronger than an elite athlete.
What kind of vampire are we actually dealing with, Steve?
The one we're talking about is the modern vampire. Fast, furious killers. One where a lot of supernatural superstitions have been taken away, like the garlic or the cross. They don't want to seduce you. These are killers and predators, and we are their prey. We've seen this in Blade, Trinity, Van Helsing, 30 Days of Night. This mouth full of fangs that can grip and rip.
All right, what are the strengths of a vampire?
First of all, superhuman strength. 6 times the strength of an elite athlete. And speed to match. On top of that, here's a creature with sight, hearing, smell on a level of a wolf or a tiger. It can sense its prey from a distance, close in very quickly. It can hear you when you're trying to hide.
You're talking about the ultimate predator, super strong, super fast, super senses.
How do you kill this beast?
Cutting their head off. Their brain is one of their big tools, so you cut it off, they're dead. Probably the most important way to destroy them is get rid of their heart, rip it out. If they can't have that mechanism that distributes the blood, they're gone.
Sounds like a hell of a matchup for the zombies.
Representing the advisory panel for the zombies, one of the world's leading authorities, Max Brooks, author of 2 New York Times bestsellers, The Zombie Survival Guide and World War Z, a modern classic being adapted into another Hollywood blockbuster.
The initial zombie mythology goes back thousands of years. We're talking about the voodoo zombie, which is essentially a slave brought back from the dead by black magic. In